Good day, all. Good day, sun. Good day, trees. Good day, tire swing. I don't like tire swings. I took a tire swing to the side of the face when I was like 4 years old, and I'm surprised I survived it. Anyway, we're not here to relive my new trauma, my new traumas, my old traumas. We're here to relive a day in history. It is April 24th, 2021. Y'all know what that means. It means another day, another video. So let's do this. But first, before we get there, remember as always to like, share, subscribe, hit up my Patreon, all these little methods to help my channel continue to grow and blossom. The link to my Patreon is in the description below. I'm always posting new stuff there to give you bang for your buck. And also the links to my Instagram and Facebook pages are also linked below, closely related to the content that I'm producing both here as well as my primary channel, Steve the Amateur Historian. If you haven't had a chance to partake that channel, go do it. If you like what's happening here, you'll love what's going on over there. All that said, let's get to today's story. So this story in particular takes us back to August 24th, 1915. Now, to help you understand how I, search and discover these stories for these various different days, I just type in the date, not the year, because then it'll only show you newspapers for 1 year. But like, if I'm looking for an article to post for, we'll say, April 24th, I just type in April 24. Click, and it pulls up all these newspapers that predominantly are from, were posted on that date, and you just start going through the papers and seeing what kind of interesting stuff you'll find. However, when you just type in the month of the day, you're going to get papers obviously from a succession of different years. So it's interesting because this story covers two different events that happened at two different times, but one of them happened right around the same date, but in another year. So I actually found a reference to one part of this story. And then I stumbled onto this article from 1915 a little while later and realized, oh, this references back to that other thing that I just stumbled onto in another newspaper. So you'll find, if there's some connection between events that happen exactly a year apart, you might stumble onto them just looking up a certain date in newspapers. Tragically, as it was reported April 24th, 1915, a man named Pete Wolf was killed when a tree limb fell and struck him and killed him dead. Now, Pete Wolf worked for a logging company that was working out of Detroit. Now, that's not Detroit, Michigan. This is Detroit, Oregon. Vastly different type of place. It ain't a big metropolitan city. It's just one of those small towns you pass through. If you're in the Willamette area, where Portland and Salem and Eugene are, and you start heading towards the Cascade Range, you might just pass through Detroit on your way there. And I want to say the major forest fires that we had last September, so September 2020, I want to say Detroit might have been one of the towns that got severely damaged by those fires. It would have been in their path. I mean, there's a couple small towns heading up towards the Cascade Range that were like completely destroyed pretty much. So Detroit is a small town, and it's in the forest heading up towards like Mount Hood, Oregon's tallest peak. So it's very forested, so it would make sense that a logging company would be working out of that general vicinity. And Pete Wolf was one of these loggers, lumberjacks, whatever you want to call them. And he suffered death by way of, while they were cutting some trees down, a tree limb broke loose, fell, or someone was cutting a tree limb above him and didn't yell heads up. And branch fell, struck Pete, I would think maybe in the head, and he was killed on the scene. Now that's the tragic part of the story. Or actually, really the whole thing is tragic. Didn't just start with Pete, but as was actually more common back in the day than it would be now. You know, a lot of siblings would work together, not necessarily in a family business, but they would just work together. They would go pursue work together, and they might find jobs in the same field, even working at the same place together. And that was the case for Pete Wolf. Pete and his brother Clifford Wolf were both working for this same logging company, you know, mostly working out of the area in the vicinity of Detroit, Oregon. Well, it was reported in a newspaper, again, getting back to my referencing two things that were exactly a year apart. Before I found this article about Pete Wolf's death, I found another small article dated April 24th, 1914, exactly 1 year earlier, that referenced Clifford Wolf, you know, the brother, you know, also worked at this logging camp, and he ended up dying on site when a limb from a tree fell and struck him, and it killed him on site. So Clifford Wolf and Pete Wolf, brothers working at the same logging company, both died the exact same way. And I can't say for absolute certain that they died exactly a year apart, because sometimes you'll see a story in a newspaper and it's, you know, it might be a day or two late. So they may have died a year and 2 days apart. They may have died 365, or no, 365 days is how long, but like maybe 363 days apart, something like that. But as far as when they were reported on, these two brothers died working for the same company, died the exact same way, and potentially died exactly 1 year to the day apart from one another. So it's just a crazy succession of random correlating events, all correlating that perfectly, that all those details would match up. And it was so interesting because I saw, you know, the story of Clifford dying first, but I was like, you know, that's a tragic story, but, you know, for the sake of the content I produce on this channel, a guy dying as a logger working with trees and the dangers that that job brings, a guy being killed by a falling limb when he's working that job wasn't, you know, it wasn't even really all that horribly unlikely. And then I saw this other story, you know, looking up the same date, April 24th, and I saw it at first. I was like, oh, here's another story. Another guy died by a tree limb falling on him and killing him. And then I actually looked over the brief article and realized, oh my God, and they were brothers. Like, what are the odds? What are the ever-loving odds that all those things would sync up just like that? Just crazy. And crazy is what I like. And crazy is, somebody just dropped a little fan here. Very common in Southeast Portland. You find a lot of random electronics, the microwaves, just all kinds of stuff. But anyway, like I said, the story was just too bizarre, the way things fell into place, to not be addressed for how tragic it is. Two brothers dying only a year apart in and of itself is horribly tragic. But then you put all the circumstances into it, it's like, wow, how do things just fall into place like that at random times? And yet it happens. So that is my story for today, and I really hope this isn't a dead-end street I'm walking into. Just in case it is and I'm never seen again, one last time, if you like this channel and you like what I'm doing, hopefully someone will pick up my Patreon money. But remember to like, share, subscribe, hit up my Patreon. Anyway, yeah, it's almost a dead-end street. It confused me because it looked like it just ended, but then there's a little turn. This is a dead end. Okay, I take that back. This did lead me into a dead end. It would have been great if there was a sign up there that said this was a dead end. I turn a corner, it's just a cul-de-sac with a dad playing soccer with his son. Whatever, you don't need to endure this ignorance with me. So anyway, all that stuff I said, the links to my Patreon, Instagram, Facebook pages, they're there. related to the content I'm posting both here as well as my primary channel, Steve the Amateur Story, and I don't remember if I had got that far, but you should know the deal by now. I think that's all the information you need to know. And if you haven't hit up my Steve the Amateur Story page, go over there. I think you'll enjoy it. And all that said, this has been Steve, and I just noticed passing by here earlier, there's like a burned out, it's like a burned out garage. Anyway, so I'll leave you with that. This has been Steve, and I'll see you tomorrow.